Thank you to our friends at RefReps for their support of the From A to Zebra podcast. The full library of episodes is now available at refreps.com under the resources page. And now, Season 3, Episode 1, Letter G, Grassroots. Join hosts Dana Pappas and Nate Acosta with special guest Anthony Jeffries on the From A to Zebra podcast.
Welcome back to the From A to Zebra podcast. I'm Dana Pappas, back with my co-host Nate Acosta for the first episode of Season 3 of our show.
2 seasons down, 60 episodes aired, and now we are kicking off our new season with NFL official who is coming off an outstanding season to talk to us about giving back and much more.
Every week of Season 3, we're going to talk through another letter of the alphabet and another topic that relates to officiating. But unlike the first 2 seasons, this is going to be a plot twist. We're not going in alphabetical order. We're being crazy. We're just going to pick a different letter, pick a different topic, and we're going to rock and roll.
Nope, we're starting with G. So our season this year is starting off with our guest who is going to talk about Grassroots initiative and officiating.
We're excited to welcome Anthony Jeffries to the podcast to start off this season. Anthony is a side judge in the NFL who is joining us after a highly successful season this year, finishing his year with the NFC Championship game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. I was super excited that AJ got that game because I had someone to cheer for, so that was the best part of the game for me was watching him work. AJ, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you all. Thank you all for having me. Last year was a great year. And we take it in stride. And if you know anything about officiating, which I'm sure you all do, I mean, we celebrate that moment. But we're in the off season, and I've already said, all right, now the transition, get ready for the next season. But last year was a great joy to be a part of the NFC Championship game, and then being selected to be the alternate for the Super Bowl was great also. So it was, again, a great year, great year. Anytime you end up with a postseason assignment in the NFL is a great year. So I had a great year, period.
Absolutely.
And I think anytime you end up with a postseason assignment at any level, it's a success. And so
Yes.
that's phenomenal. And so again, before we get into the topic of Grassroots, tell us about your own officiating journey. When and how did you get started? What was your path to the NFL?
Man, so this year marks year 20, I think. Year 20, starting year 21. So 21 years of officiating. So began in 2005 with high school football, like most people do. Then I got introduced to some guys that were doing some college stuff because the coordinator needed somebody to speak to his college officials about health and fitness. So my degree is exercise phys from UAB. So I did that for him. That following spring, I went to his camp. And he hired me after 2 years of high school. He hired me and said, I'm going to give this guy a chance. And I mean, you just sprinkle just a little bit of God's favor on something and all kind of doors open up. And it's a true testament to my officiating career. It's a true testament to God's favor. But again, I started in the SWAC, kind of matriculated into the OBC, worked some Division III stuff under Jim Jackson in OBC. And then I kind of got picked up in the Sun Belt in 2015 after working, a couple of years in the SWAC full time. Then I worked in the Sun Belt for a year, and then Steve Shaw took over. When Steve Shaw took over the Sun Belt, he hired me, And then following that, I worked 3 years in the SEC. And I got called up to the SEC after a gentleman had a heart issue and couldn't go, and Steve Shaw gave me the call, So
Yeah.
I tell people about that call. You have to be ready for that call because you never know when it's going to happen. But no, I worked 3 years into the SEC, and then Meth, who said, "Hey, man, I got to make sure some guys in the NFL know about you. You got a lot of good things going on." And a year from that date, the NFL hired me. So and now I'm in year 8 in the NFL. So, God's favor does not make you void from being prepared. So I thank God for being prepared for every moment and every door.
And I'm guessing that door has to be the fitness, right? Because I turned on semifinals, which I am a Matthew Stafford fan, right? I'm a Detroit Lion fan by heart, and I've kind of followed Matthew Stafford, to the Rams. But I was watching that game, and I'm like, man, these referees are in shape, right? And I would imagine that you have to be one of them. I mean, obviously on this podcast, we can't see each other truly, but I was like, I got to hit somebody up on that crew, and you're the guy apparently with your
Well,
experience.
well, I mean, first of all, me, I work out the way I work out so I can eat what I want. Okay.
Same.
I'm just grateful for good genetics and of course, it's like anything else. Almost like when you know too much, you tend not to really follow all the rules. But I just thank God I created a good lifestyle for just always working out, trying to stay fit and making sure that, when the coach sees me, they're not worried about me being able to move and do what I have to do on the field. Essentially what it comes down to,
Oh, for
and,
sure.
and we've all heard you got three teams on the field, so we all do our part, to make sure when the coach sees the team of, stripes, team of officials, they're not worried about whether or not we can move or not. So that matters.
1,000%.
I'm so glad that you said you work out how you work out so you can eat how you eat, because we did have a professional official that we had back in New Mexico who somebody asked what his diet was, and he's like, pizza and McDonald's. And I was like, don't say that. Don't say that to them. Like, talk about the fact that you're in the gym for 8 hours before you talk about the pizza and McDonald's that you ate. So really appreciate you leading with the workout before you got into
Yes.
the stuff that you like to eat. So AJ, you mentioned in your kind of your path to the NFL that you've gotten started as an official with the AHSA, which I know you're still very closely involved with, and we'll get to that in a second. But as a person who works obviously with high school officials, I would love to know what some of your favorite memories of working at the interscholastic level are, and how those experiences kind of shaped you to be an eventual NFL official.
I mean, high school sets the foundation. It really does. I don't care what level you kind of matriculate to as a player. And when you want to get into officiating, you have to go start somewhere. And I remember, man, my first time on the field, I just saw this guy at the airport last week. And I remember my first time on the field. I show up to a middle school scrimmage with full uniform on, and everybody else has like the striped shirt and the black shorts. So now I'm already looking like that guy. All right. So I'm in full uniform. Everybody else is black shorts and striped shirts. So, I went to a training camp, high school training camp as the back judge, but I get to the scrimmage and I got to work line of scrimmage. So my first memory being on the field, my wife was in the stands. My first memory, like we had a long pass that just broke out and I'm running. I mean, just trying to get down the field. And by the time I get down there, I've lost my hat, my flag, my bean bag, my game card. I mean, everything just flying out. And the referee comes in, what do you have? And I can balance everything trying to run down the field. But being a young guy, not knowing how to secure things, and, I mean, I remember that. I remember at that scrimmage, every play, I'm on a line of scrimmage and I'm stopping the clock after every play. I mean, every time I came in to get a spot, I'm stopping the clock. And then finally, the guy who was there to help me, he stood behind me. And I went to raise my hand and I couldn't. So I remember those moments. I remember working, the the playoffs, the championship game, and we had just gotten like these O2Os in high school, and so we're able to communicate with each other. And my former college referee, we're working the state championship game together, and there's an interception. And as the back judge, I saw it unfold immediately. And the minute I see this kid pick it off and he has a straight path to the end zone, I said, Johnson, go, just go, go, go. And the entire time he's running down the field, Johnson, go, go, Johnson, Johnson, go, go, Johnson. And which I didn't realize. I'm about to just have him kind of being a part of the training committee in high school. I remember the look on the first year official's face, and it's pretty comical, but yet I can appreciate, just being there to help. So, I mean, those are just two, maybe three instances of where, I mean, working high school ball and college ball, I mean, being in some of the biggest college games that the SEC has was very, very humbling at the same time, because, the SEC has a great deal of college football, and I'm fortunate enough to work in the ACC, so I get to see the ACC level side of football, which is just as rewarding on the administrative side. So, I mean, still being involved in scholastic sports, I mean, it's still a joy of mine. I love it.
I love that.
Yeah, and so let's get into with that. Let's get into today's topic. You still work closely with AHSAA in a couple of capacities: the NFHS NFL Official of the Month initiative and Grassroots Camp, to be specific. Why do you believe that working with interscholastic officials is so important as an NFL official?
It's the foundation, man. It's the foundation by which I do everything. I mean, it starts with interscholastic. I mean, it starts with high school. It starts with where to stand, where to look. Are you looking in the right place? And so the way I look at it, with with giving back, because everything I do, I mean, I just love teaching, man. I love teaching. I love sharing tips. I love sharing nuggets to just help the next person out. And then even with this grassroots initiative, we started this camp right here in Birmingham. And the whole point of the camp, the whole point of this grassroots initiative, from our vantage point, let's give whatever we can to the grassroots level to help them. If they can pick up the basic fundamentals of officiating and, what I would call big boy principles in managing a game, if we can get them to understand that now, first of all, the game plays better. High school games play better. You're not getting involved unless you have to, but not just that, we planted a seed that might help the good ones separate themselves and put themselves in a good position to maybe even start working NCAA football. So I just think, Interscholastic just provides the foundation, man. And with a great foundation, the sky's the limit.
And so the next level officials camp that takes place in Birmingham each May, AJ's kind enough to let me come and spend a couple of days with the campers, with the staff. Camp staff is incredible, like mind-blowing, largely NFL and high-level collegiate football officials. Before I get into the question, I have to share two quick thoughts about my camp experience last year. First one was spring football in Alabama. It is different. AJ and I are talking, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there's probably gonna be a band," and I was like, "A band? It's a spring football game. What are you talking about?" So we roll up to one of the sides, and there's a band, there's cheerleaders, and I'm like, "It's May. Like, what is happening?" New Mexico, we didn't have that, so
No.
I was like, "What is going on?" But yeah, band, cheerleaders, the whole 9 yards, the concession stand. I mean, the whole thing. So that was the first, and on the same day, I'm standing on the sidelines watching some of the campers and Ron Torbert, NFL White Hat. For those who don't know that are listening in, he was on our podcast before. He is working with some of the people working on the referee position, and a facility manager from the school walks over and he kind of sidles up to me. He's like, "So what are you guys doing?" So I'm explaining to him that it's a camp. And he's like, "I didn't know officials did that." And then he's staring at Ron and he's like, why does he look familiar? I was like, "Oh, that's Ron Torbert. He's a white hat in the NFL." And he was just like, "Oh my gosh, are all of these people?" And I was like, "Well, it's NFL, SEC, ACC." And he was just floored. He's like, "They're doing this for high school." And he was blown away. And I think it was just cool because it was that moment of humanizing those officials, but it was also just showing that they're still just people. Like, we all think of them in this world. In my seat, I think of those as like superheroes completely. Officials at the professional level, at all levels for me, are superheroes. But those were two of the coolest moments ever. But the spring football thing, that was crazy. But looking forward to that again. So,
Real
oh,
quick though, you mentioned something about they're just humans, right? And I think for our non-listeners, our non-officials that are listening, officiating's that community. That's what it is. I mean, doesn't matter if you are at the NFL level or you're at the interscholastic level. We all speak the same language. We're all in each other's corner. We all support each other, and we're all friends. I mean, and that is, it's, we eat dinner and we drink a ice cold iced tea together, and that's the community. It's unlike any other community, um, in any other profession. So
I agree. I agree 100%. And that's the one thing that I think holds true more than anything. Like, it's a camaraderie of sisters and brothers that there's no explanation, for it. I mean, I heard people say that when I first started high school, and I say the same thing now. I just can't find any other words other than it's just a special community of people that just get one another, whether you're a basketball official, football official,
Mhm.
soccer official, wrestler, it doesn't matter because you all get the grunt work that's required, the studying that's required, the being conscientious about just doing the right things. It takes all of that. And the foundation for a lot of what I do is officiating is an act of service. It's an act of service. It's not my decision. It's not my choice to do, anything other than provide the best service possible. Which means, you know, I know half the stadium is not going to like me. Everybody's not going to agree with me, but I'm there to provide a service. And at the end of the day, my opinion doesn't matter. I'm just to make sure this person doesn't cheat that person, and we move on. you know.
Absolutely. So well said. And that community servant heart is so important and at all levels.
Yes.
Going back to the camp, I know I went on a tangent, but I just had to share my experiences at the camp.
Yeah.
So how did the camp really come to be, and what's the philosophy of that high-powered staff with regard to the training and education provided at the event?
Well, who better to learn from than the best in the industry? I mean, I think the time you're talking
100%.
about, Ron Torbert, they just come off working the Super Bowl. That's why the guy looks so familiar to the person. Like if he watched the Super Bowl, he saw Ron Torbert. So I mean, there's a lot of just great officials out there, but we have not just great officials, but good people. These guys don't charge me anything to come. Okay. And we're talking about NFL caliber officials, championship level officials, Super Bowl officials, SEC, ACC officials, Compass USA officials. I mean, we're aiming for the highest level of officiating to come and just teach not just officiating but game management concepts, and that's the biggest thing. So a lot of people view our camp, you got critics and everything you do, right? That's just as long as you got
100%.
people, you're going to have critics. I mean, and that's the nature of life in society. But our number one goal in this camp is to teach the best practices for officiating and managing the game of football. So it doesn't matter if you're a high school official. It doesn't matter if you're a college or NFL official. Everyone that's in that room, we're all learning. Even if you're teaching, you're learning, because a high school official is going to ask a question that's going to spark a thought process. Like, oh, I never thought about that. And I've been there. So we learn from each other. I mean, some of us have seen more snaps than others. That's what separates us. You know, we're not separated because we're NFL, we're college, we're high school. In my opinion, we're separated because some of us have seen just a few more snaps than the next person.
Yep.
And those few extra snaps have afforded us some learning opportunities and experiences that I can share with you to make sure you avoid the pitfall. That is the fundamental basis of Ref Academy Camp that we do. And the state of Alabama has been so supportive because we teach officials to go be leaders where they are, and some guys and girls are fortunate enough to leave that camp with an offer to work Division II and Division III football. But anybody that comes to that camp that wears Ref Academy on their shirt, on their hat, or whatever swag we give them, they are charged with being leaders in their local associations to share with them what they've learned, and now, granted, we're fortunate that the mass majority of the officials that come are from the state of Alabama. And we like that, Ken Washington, who's
Yeah.
very involved. I mean, great guy. He does a good job in supporting us because he knows the value that we hold in teaching officials. And even this year, like part of Super 7 experience, championship experience. So we did something unique this year. Following their game, we did a pre-game debrief with them, where we sat down with them, showed them a few plays of interest, some attaboys, and say, hey, have you considered this also? And we did that. And you'll be amazed as to how much some guys just don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and then we take for granted, even at what you all do, you take for granted some of the things you do until you begin talking to someone and you be like, I thought
Yeah.
more people knew this than I thought. And I'm not saying it with a negative connotation. I'm just saying it with, it just is always a reminder of more work that needs to be done.
Man, there was a lot packed into that answer, and
Yeah.
in a really good way.
And my thought process went all over the place because
And I wish I would have written something down because I like 8 really good thoughts and I don't remember what I was gonna say, but, there was a lot in that, AJ, and I think one of the things that really sticks out for me is you're talking about Ken Washington, the HSAA, and their support of what you're doing, and I think that that's so important because there are times where a state association or a local association might be like, "Oh, well, they're professional officials, they're college officials, we need them to teach high school." Well, that's what they're doing. Like, it's still officiating at the end of the day. You're not teaching them NFL rules at a high school camp. Like, you're gonna when in Rome, you're gonna do all of that. But I think it's so important if you have these resources, if you have people like you and Ron and James Carter and all the people that come to your camp who are willing to teach, oh my gosh, yes, like that's a no-brainer. So I think that sometimes people get a little bit weird about, oh gosh, well they're at a different level. Yeah, they're at a high level and they're willing to share their wisdom with us. So I think that when you're talking about that, I was just thinking of how important that support of Ken and Heath Harmon and the whole staff at the HSAA, the fact that they love what you do because they know that it's getting their officials better. So I think that that's super important.
And the fact that I mean, obviously, there's a reason why we become best friends and co-hosts on this podcast because my thought process was very similar to that, but on the officiating side, right? Because a lot of times high school officials have college officials come in and help, or NFL officials or pro officials come in, and their first thought is, well, I'm not at that level. Like you're teaching me something that I'm not gonna ever experience, and that's not the case, right? Or the thought process you mentioned a couple key points, like you have a bunch of NFL and high level college officials coming in to just volunteer their time, right? I think a lot of times camps are seen as a money grab or trying to make money. And so, I'm telling you, like if you're a high school official out there, if you're a college official out there, or you're looking to advance or you're looking to just be better at the level that you are, look, Anthony's not trying to make money off you. He makes enough money doing what he does on an NFL field, right? And that's real talk, right? He's coming back because you know what? That's what we did. That's what we do, right? And as high level officials, you have to give back. And you have to that it's ingrained in us because somebody gave to us. And so
Yes.
that's I think that was the biggest message that I got out of that. It was like, look, here you go. You have these high level officials that are coming back. So stop trying to find reasons not to go get better and go get better.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for that because, at the end of the day, I mean, we don't charge much. I mean,
No,
at
we do
all.
not.
We do, I mean, $450, okay, to be trained by the best in the industry, okay? $450 for these guys to come in and tell you on a run play, your eyes should be here. Okay. On a pass play, your eyes should be here. Hey, be disciplined with your eyes, be disciplined with your movement. That transcends across all levels. I did not say in the NFL they do this, in college they do this. And on every level, we have to be disciplined with our eyes. But if you never hear that, you won't know to do that. And I got to say this, when I walked away from high school, I thank God for my playing experience at UAB. I was a walk on there. But when I did high school football, I mean, I knew I had to count as a back judge. I had to identify strong side and don't get beat, Now, now,
And
as I
you hold that through many levels of officiating.
yes, it set a good foundation. But as you learn and as you expose yourself around different people, the very first camp I went to in the SWAC, I got to say this, I saw a lot of officials that looked like me, and that was rewarding.
For
That
sure.
was rewarding because I'm like, oh my, because I got into officiating to earn a little extra money. Okay, that was the goal. My wife and I have been married a couple of years. I said, "Hey, I'll do officiating just to earn a little extra money." I mean, it may not be a lot of money, but extra money is good money. Okay,
Yep.
For sure.
and that's where it started. And lo and behold, God had great plans for me. Look where I am now. But even in that, I mean, you learn those fundamentals and those foundations in high school, but they transcend every level. And as I said, as you get more of those snaps, you find yourself in more experiences to help the next person, and that's really what it's all about. We're here just to help anybody get better, because for the same caliber of people. And then our camp is different in that we're aiming for high school officials. We want high school officials. We want those that are green. Green is green. We want them not even knowing where to stand. Let me show you where to stand. Those are the ones that we want because, again, we set a good firm foundation there. It helps them as they matriculate up to the next level. So what is the next level? The next level is working mentally and physically above your. 'Cause that could be a middle school of a high school official that works middle school ball. This one's a regular varsity schedule. It's the next level is relative to the person you're talking to. And I have to make sure I'm clear with that in my opening statement at the camp. If you're looking to be better and work beyond your current state, this is the place you want to be. And that's going to be different for everybody. But we aim for high school officials that are just green as green.
And I'm sitting here and I had another question for you. And that question was, when officials attend your camp, what are the things that you hope they take away from the experience? But I think you pretty much sum that up with that answer. I think it's what is it that you want to take? So I mean, maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think we do a great job training and telling officials what is and what is not a foul. I mean, you think about it, that, you first get started, they tell you where to stand with the mechanics guy. Then they spend a lot of time telling you what holding is, what false start is, what defensive offsides is, and what pass interference is. What are the categories for pass interference? But what we really try to do is that one, talk about the officiating part. Two, what I think is a huge part that gets overlooked is the game management concepts and philosophies.
Mm,
So what's the difference? The game management part talks about how to adjust your level, how to be consistent with your level of judgment and knowing when to call and when not to call. Prime example. Now I'm about to lose a lot of my defensive coaches out on the calls. Defensive coaches want every foul called. Okay. Every foul on the field they want called. But in the essence of managing a game and making sure it plays well, if it's a backside hold and it's not at the point of attack, what advantage did he gain by holding that guy? But you get an average high school official who's learning the rules. And I can tell you, I could watch an official work and I can tell you whether or not he's 0 to 3 years, 4 to maybe 8 years or beyond. I can tell you that because 0 to 3, you're getting everything. You're getting everything. I mean, you're just happy to be there. I'm sorry. Between that 4 to 8, you're calling everything you see because I got it now. I see that. I see that. I see that. But 8 years and beyond is when you start narrowing in, the good ones start narrowing in on that level of game management, knowing when to throw and when not to throw based on advantage, disadvantage. Because even in high school, the games could get pretty long, right? So everybody's looking at how to be more efficient, how to be more accurate and more consistent. So why get involved unless we absolutely have to? So that's where the game management comes in. And then the last piece will be best practices. Best practices for managing the officiating life. So we talk about the intangibles, how to talk to a coordinator. And we mentor. We have about 20 to 30 officials that get selected at our camp by Division II, various Division II and Division III coordinators. Well, those that are selected, we put them in a program. And that program is we mentor them throughout their season, asking them, how's it going? We talk to them how to prepare a pregame. Because when you're doing a pregame at college, you're working with mixed officials. They don't know you. Your best way to sell them on your ability is not by running your mouth. It's about your product on the field and how you present yourself. So we teach them how to give a pregame topic and sound like a professor in it. Don't
yeah.
read from the book. Sell what you're doing. Make sure they know that you're there to own your position. But we try to teach the intangible lessons. That's the best practices part of it.
And AJ, I know from being at your camp, I'm kind of a fly on the wall when I'm there. So I'm in classroom sessions, I'm out on the field and just kind of listening in. And I think some of the best classroom, but non-classroom that I see is when your clinicians are on the field and they're just having those little conversations and those little nuggets and really starting that mentorship process there. And we talk so much now in the interscholastic world about the need to mentor because one of the reasons why people get out when they do is because they've just kind of been thrown to the wolves. They don't have the people that are there talking to them about how to really hone your skills and to try to perfect your craft and how to avoid pitfalls and how to talk to your supervisor or your assigner. And when I hear those little conversations at your camp, I'm like, oh my God, these are like every conversation is a clinic, which is really cool. But, if we can figure out a way to capture those sorts of things in a sense that officials in all sports across the country at the high school level can get that, it's just critical to retention. And I think that that's something we need more of. And I commend your staff because every single one of them to a person is out there having those informal conversations, which mean everything to those officials because they're hearing it and it's personal and they're engaged and it's their opportunity to ask somebody that they may not have had access to questions that, to them, they almost feel like it's a stupid question, but we all know that it's not. Like you don't know what you don't know, so you have to ask to be able to get better. And I love that part of the camp. Seeing the clinics within the clinic, I think is really special.
Well, and the biggest thing that you mentioned was communication, right? Whether it's communication with the clinician staff or you mentioned conversations with your coordinators, how to talk to your coordinators and the people that give you the games. I think what our listeners should know is that our coordinators are human, right? And they have personalities and they are people. I think we we a lot of times are intimidated by either their status or that the fact that they're the coordinator. But I mean, I think that everybody at your levels, especially collegiate level, the one thing that they have figured out is that you can talk to your supervisors and your coordinators like they're normal people. And the second that you can get comfortable with that, right, you'll actually find that you're gonna retain a lot more information. You're gonna know what's expected. You're going to, and that expectation is going to show on the playing surface. And that, I think, when younger officials ask me, well, what's communication like with your coordinator, or what's the communication like with your crew chief that worked the Final Four, what is that communication like? It's the same communication that you and I are having right now. It's no
That's
different,
true.
right?
That
Yeah, and the second that you figure that out, really your progression is, because now, instead of trying to figure out how to communicate and you start being yourself, then you're actually going to start picking up the nuggets that you're throwing out there. And now your growth starts to happen at a faster rate. So, so bringing the communication piece up, and that's just sitting in a room with you, understanding that, hey, I can go talk to Anthony. He's gonna tell me how it is, and it's no different than my high school peer that's gonna tell me the exact same thing, just in a different language.
That is
So
so true. That is so true. I mean, communication, man. We spend a lot of great time talking about communication. And yes, how do you talk to your coordinator when he sends you something? When, getting it back in a timely manner, how do you talk to the coaches on the sideline? We discuss those kind of things, you talk to coaches in their language down the distance, but, and high school officials, a lot of them are just intimidated by, it's not so much like, the fear is not knowing what to say to the coach. That's the fear. That the fear is, if he asks me something, I don't know what to say, So we try to give them those nuggets of what to say when he's upset, "Coach, let me find out for you, coach." And then find out and get him the information, We talk to them how to categorize what you're seeing. I call it being disciplined with your eyes, see the details, I've been challenged, okay? I've been challenged, even in the NFL. No, 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 no. You didn't see that. You didn't see that. But when you can clearly articulate in details what you saw, I tell him you earn street cred with the coach. He
street
may
cred.
say, yeah, the coach might say, yeah, I saw it. He pulled him with his left hand. No, coach, it was his right hand right at the top of the route. When you can, but we're teaching that in high school though. No, no, he was out of bounds. No, coach, right foot hit in bounds right before the left foot hit out of bounds. We teach them to be detail oriented, see the details, and then recapitulate that to the coach. That's the communication with the coaches. But one other key thing that we tend to forget about in officiating, I can tell you how many times I've gone to a camp, not just necessarily my own, but someone else's camp. I've had people pull me to the side and say, "Tell me how you juggle the family. Tell me how you juggle your spouse, the kids, tell me, because I've been there. I got 2 kids, 2 great kids, and a wife that I love. And guess what? My officiating thing gets put on the back burner when we got projects. You know, I mean, I got to make sure I take care of the house and the wife and that kind of stuff before I get to the officiating side, because this is something I get to do. This is something I have to do. I have to take care of family. So, I've had guys say, man, I got a wife. I had this one guy, high school official. Can we go to lunch? Yeah, let's go to lunch. He says, okay, my wife, she's not getting this officiating thing, And we had almost an hour and a half conversation on how to handle that you got to make her as involved in officiating as you make her as involved in anything else you're doing. You got to make her part of it and not on the outside looking in. And that's something we have to juggle, the family piece also.
But understanding too that your coordinator understands that family first.
Yes,
There's not a coordinator or supervisor in the world that's going to penalize you for taking care of your family, right?
exactly.
And I think a lot of our younger officials, and I'm guilty of it, right? I'm a lifelong official who sacrificed family and sacrificed my personal life and friends for officiating. And now that, I've been officiating long enough, now I'm starting to think, man, like, I wish I would have said no a couple more times. I wish I would have told my coordinator, but I was always fearful of, I'm going to miss out on an opportunity.
Yes.
And, and as I've gone through this officiating, journey, that's not the case. Not the case at all. If you just communication with the coordinator, there's not a coordinator or a supervisor in the world, right, that's going to penalize you for taking care of your home life.
We just got to get over the fact that I just missed out on that assignment. Get over that. Get over that. There's more to come. And then, and I mean, I've missed out on some things. I have, but it takes a support system that understands where you are and the level of commitment that it takes. My wife is a football junkie, is what she's been called before, by a former
Yeah.
coordinator. But it helps when they are as invested. But you can only be as invested as people invest into you, though. So and allow you to invest. So support system is important.
It is because you got family, you have a real job, you have all of those other things, so being able to find that balance and being able to, as a newer official, have somebody like you or Nate that they can talk to about that balance because it is hard, especially if it's something that maybe your spouse isn't sports oriented or whatever. It's a hard sell, it really is, and then they're going, "Wait, you're taking time off of work to go and get criticized by people in the stands, like, what are you doing?" So it's a difficult sell, but I think having people that can have those conversations is really important. So we've kind of talked a little bit about this, but AJ, you're in a pretty unique position because you work in the NFL, you're still very closely involved with collegiate officiating as well as high school. So the, professional and collegiate officials paying it forward to grassroots officiating programs, in my opinion, is critical. Is there anything from your perspective, which I do consider very unique, that you would like to see being done for interscholastic officials across all sports that you feel could help with their recruitment and retention?
Just think more what we're doing to just educate. I mean, again, people are fearful because of lack of knowledge. You just don't
Mhm.
know. You don't know. So whatever we can do to spread the knowledge, spread what we're doing. And again, on the grassroots level, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I meet now that says, I wish I had have just done XYZ, but I thought this, but I thought that, and they missed out on potentially being, a collegiate athlete, I mean, collegiate official. So I think, I mean, what can be done? Just more initiatives where we're tackling and being very intentional about recruiting and about going out to touch, and I think that goes a long ways. I mean, I can sit and write a letter, I can do XYZ, but to have somebody sitting in your face that it is where you wanna go, I think speaks volume. That's why I stay involved in high school. That's why I stay I've been very blessed. I work with 3 different college conferences right now, and they afford me the opportunity to be supervisor, deep wing supervisor for the ACC with Al Riveron, Brad Allen, and that staff, and they brought me on as a film grader, then I matriculated and been to a supervisor, but what that does, it just keeps me abreast. It keeps me abreast to the latest trends, what's going on, the latest ladder for moving up the system, and I do that, not just with them, but for the SWAC organizations where I started, and I help with the SIAC. I just find that keeping my foot in those type of arenas helps me understand the route for matriculation for a high school official. And then what happens is on the back end of things, I've created a pipeline is what I've done. I've created a self-sufficient pipeline where I can identify somebody in high school, help them navigate the industry, get them in the SIEC, depending on how things go, figure out their branch to the next level based on where they live, and just try to help them matriculate. Also, I stay involved for that reason. But what can be done? Just whatever we can do to keep the message out there about how human we are and the processes that it takes is just come out and just say yes. But it takes a special invitation for people to do that. I think it's not that people don't want to do it. In this day and time of generation, people just got to be asked. That's just where we are right now. People got to be asked. Have you thought about it?
I do have a follow-up question, and then this is a legitimate question. What do you have to gain from doing all the extra?
What do I have to gain?
Yeah, how does it improve your already successful career?
Man, it keeps me on edge, man. Let me tell you
Yeah,
something.
but I mean, what do you gain from it? Are you getting more NFL games? Are you getting
Nope.
more? Oh,
But let me tell you what I am getting. So in every role, I'm a huge component. Even in my sports medicine career, everything I did just connected one to another, and that doesn't happen to a lot of people. But even in my officiating career, everything I'm doing is connected to one another. And the ultimate goal is just to be better, for me to be 1% better than I was yesterday. So if it takes being an ACC supervisor, grading 300 to 400 plays a week, guess
That's
what?
3 or
Sign
4
me up.
plays that you get to see.
That's it. If it takes being involved in high school, helping the next person out, it just helps me be just 1% better. And so what does it do for me? I'm a little selfish. I do all that to get better.
No, and then that was the answer I was looking for, because I
Yes.
think that
That gave me goosebumps. That was the right answer.
that's a right answer, because I think that, again, we go back to, the haters out there that think that we do these things to help out, to gain something in our own professional career. Hey, newsflash, you're not going to help me get more games, but what you're going to do is you're going to get better, and I'm going to get to see more play, so I'm also going to grow in that process.
Yes.
And so for the haters out there, I challenge you to actually give back just a little bit, because you know what, selfishly, you are going to get just a little bit better as well.
A little
But
bit better.
and I gotta say, from your answer, AJ, it was almost like we had given you the answer, but we had not, because I remember being in the state office and we'd offer an additional training opportunity or something that wasn't for credit, but it was something that was really for professional development and for self-improvement and all those things. And without fail, I would get calls from officials and go, well, what do I get for going? And my answer
Yeah.
was, you get better. And some people were fine with that answer. Other people were like, well, you mean I don't get clinic credit? No, I don't get this. No, you get to be better than you were when you started the offering. And when you said that answer, I was like, that was the game winning touchdown. It was all of those things. It was just perfect. So thank you for apparently being innate in my heads when you were answering that question, because it's perfect.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, and I challenge people to mentor somebody, right? I mean, the greatest growth is when you actually have to put yourself on the line and teach somebody how to do, and you're going to grow, because if I'm going to give you advice, I better know what I'm talking about.
Better know.
And and and
Be
I'm going to
helpful.
study just a little harder to make sure that I give you the correct information, which
Yes.
just challenged me to just elevate, right? So for all you listeners out there that are going through the motions and collecting paychecks, right? That's all you're gonna ever do. You're not gonna advance. You're not gonna see the postseason. You're not gonna, move to the NFC Championship and work in the Super Bowl. You're not. It's but at the same time, you're needed, and we love you, and we want you to be around. But at the same time, like, let's let's just do a better job of being better.
So my thing is, why do it and not want to be the best?
Oh,
Why do anything? Why do anything in life and not want to excel in it?
yep.
Why? Why do anything you just want to be mediocre or just average?
It sounds
So no,
terrible.
I mean it does, right?
Sounds
But
terrible.
I mean, so but we stress and we try to be an advocate. We try to be, tangible evidence of giving back. I can remember getting into the SEC and I would still register for high school football. I would register for high school football, go to the high school meetings on Tuesday. And then one guy said, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" I said, "It's football season. Why would I not be here? Why would I not be here? It's football season. But you're in the SEC. I don't care. Why would I not be here? I mean, it's football season. Where am I going to be? But that almost has to be our mindset. Like, regardless of where you got to keep that hunger and that fight about you so that you can continue, not just do it, but do it great. Be good at it. Be consistent at it, and never stop learning. That just has to be your goal. Never stop learning.
Love it. Hey, final question for you, and this is, season 3, the finale, or you know, this is our intro to the season 3, but every season we have, asked the same question, and it's a final question, from the A to Zebra podcasts. As a mission each week, we try to educate, elevate, and excite our listeners. What can you tell our audience about Grassroots efforts in officiating that accomplishes that mission?
Well, the grassroots is the epitome of it. We educate. we educate you on how to not just officiate, but just learn the fundamentals of just, again, where to stand, where to look, position, how to elevate yourself, how to elevate the game, how to give back to the game, and then do it with great excellence, do it with great pride. So, and we do that on the grassroots level. I mean, with high school officials, because again, if we can plant those seeds early, we put a firm foundation on whatever they use football to do it. But these principles that we're teaching in this grassroots course, this grassroots camp, it transcends all sports. You gotta have eye discipline in every sport. You got to have proper fundamentals in every sport. Every sport, you got to fight for an angle. Every sport, you got to challenge yourself to maintain physical conditioning. Every sport, you got to study the rules. Every sport, you got to apply sound fundamentals and philosophies to officiating. So, I mean, principles that this podcast stand on, I think is the epitome of what we're doing at Rep Academy Next Level Camp, and just what we do mentoring throughout the year, throughout their season, to help them become better in whatever they're doing.
I love that. And I think, I'm watching Nate nod his head. I think he's going to sign up for your camp now. You're speaking his language right now. He's a basketball guy, but it just sense.
Yeah.
I know. This was a great way to kick off our first show of season 3. And Anthony Jeffries, thank you so much for your time. And everything that you talk about, I had just like this recurrent theme that kept coming up, and that was you're a person who not only has remembered your roots, every single step of them, but you've given back to every single step. And that is something so admirable, and something I think that's why when you and I met, I think that's why we connected as easily as we did and kind of became fast friends, because your commitment to this avocation, this profession is outstanding. And I'm so honored to know you and to be a part of your Ref Academy family there in Alabama. And you do great work, and your staff does great work. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything that you do for officiating and everything else that you do, because I know you're an incredible family man. You're dedicated to your career, and you've got a lot of irons burning and a lot of fires. So we appreciate you taking time out to be with us to kick off our season. And I don't know, Nate, if you've got some closing thoughts for AJ.
Man, what an opening season 3, and thank you for joining us. And I can't thank you enough, as well as Dana. Everything that she said. It's amazing to have individuals like you that want to come join our platform and join us in just advocating for what we do in the officiating world, whether you're a rec league intramural official all the way to the pros. And so thank you. For our listeners, thank you for joining us from the A to Zebra podcast, and welcome back for season 3. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X for more information about the show. See you next time.
When I fall without fail, when I land.
Be sure to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, and also catch From A to Zebra on Instagram at from_A_2_zebra, Facebook From A to Zebra podcast, and on X at From A to Zebra.